I believe in miracles.
Don't say people. I'm doing business here, man.
I don't want anybody tells you words and ideas can change the world.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
90% of what you're saying ain't coming out of your mouth.
From failing, you learn. From success, not so much.
Keep moving forward.
Welcome to the Small Business Miracles Podcast. I'm Jeff Randolph. This small business podcast is brought to you by EAG Advertising and Marketing. We're going to talk about marketing. We're also here to celebrate entrepreneurs. We have marketing news and advice business owners can use to keep moving forward. Don't miss our featured interview this time with Kasey Riley from the Fat Plant Society. We'll talk to her about that and the benefits of biophilic design right after this marketing tip. Today's marketing tip deals with something we all do, or at least we should all be doing better, and that's listening. It doesn't matter who you are, what your role is. If you're in sales, obviously listening to the person who is on the other side of that prospecting call or meeting is heard so that you can understand what their needs are and address those. But it could also be because you're in HR and you're doing some kind of employee evaluation and you're listening to somebody's concern, whatever that may be. You could have a meeting where everyone needs to collaborate and you all come together so that everyone is heard. Listening is one of the things that we don't get right very often. Being an active listener is good. Being an active listener helps because you're listening, you're giving verbal cues, kind of like I do all the time when we're doing an interview with a business owner and I'm interrupting all the time. Yeah, no, absolutely. Those kinds of things. You're showing that you're paying attention, but you can also be asking an open-ended question. You could be nodding and paying attention. You could certainly be off of your electronic devices while you're doing that, so you give them the time of day. Why are we so bad at listening? And it turns out there are three big reasons why we typically don't listen. And all it takes to get it right is just to pay attention and know that this is what you should be doing, that you should give that person the respect and benefit of actually paying attention to them. One of the reasons we don't listen is because it's a repeat problem. Imagine you're in customer service and you've heard that same problem over and over again. I can solve this problem in my sleep. So we stop listening. We listen just enough to hear what that issue is, and then we stop listening at that point because we can already solve it. I'm already six yards down the field ready to solve your problem for you. I'll just wait for you to catch up. And others just having experience. You can imagine if you are a physician, you're a doctor and you're listening to a patient and you're having them describe what their symptoms are, and those symptoms are, I can't smell or taste anything. Well, obviously I stopped listening because I heard that you have COVID is basically what I heard. So I'm going to stop listening at that point. I'm not going to, say anything else. Or I'm not going to really pay attention to any of the other symptoms that you're speaking about because I already have diagnosed what the issue is. If we stop and we just pay attention and we listen to what the rest of that story, there may be something very, very valid in there, very valuable piece of information that we can stop and pay attention to, and that may change the way that we respond. The third reason we don't listen is a heavy workload, right? I have 6 other things to do. I have other things that are priorities, and I may be under the gun. I may have a deadline. We're stressed. And when we're stressed, it's tough to hear what's happening. We're focused on the chaos and productivity. And to me, you are an interruption, and nobody likes to feel like they're an interruption. So if we give everybody the attention that they're due and we stop, as difficult as this can be in all instances, just stop and actually actively pay attention to what they're saying. Listen and hear it. Repeat things back to them in summary so that you hear you are on the same page and you're saying, I understand what you're saying. Here's what I think I hear you saying. So many different active listening techniques that we can employ to show that we're listening, not just on paper, but actually show that we care, that we actually care about you and what you were saying to us. That will help us move forward. So go ahead, give it a chance, see if you can listen. And thanks for listening to this tip. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. You may have been walking around your favorite locations in Kansas City, like restaurants or Sporting Kansas City or a library, and have noticed green walls, moss walls. Some with a design, some with a logo, some in a set of frames. You've probably noticed that these brightened the room and made you feel good. What you were seeing quite probably came from the Fat Plant Society, which is where this episode's guest comes from. Please welcome Kasey Riley, the co-founder and chief marketing officer of the Fat Plant Society. Kasey, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, so first, let's talk. So, full disclosure, we have moss walls. We have 3 of them in our place, and every single time somebody comes in, they go, "Wow!" Like it's a showstopper. What is the Fat Plant Society? Tell us more about that, as though we don't have that in our office and know exactly what it is. If for the listener at home.
Sure. Thank you. Well, we love to hear that. We love to hear that people like the work. The Fat Plant Society is a biophilic design studio. Mm-hmm. We specialize in real moss for interior design. So, biophilic design, of course, is a pretty large and it's. I wouldn't say it's complicated, but it's a
deep topic.
It's a deep topic.
Yeah.
There are lots and lots of ways to approach biophilic design. We specialize in utilizing real nature. So of the various analogs and means by which someone could bring biophilic design into a space, we focus on utilizing nature itself. We specialize in moss because it is so wonderfully sustainable. Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to be watered. It doesn't need to be misted. It doesn't require any maintenance whatsoever. So it's a wonderful way to bring greenery, real greenery, into a space without dealing with the maintenance part, both in terms of budget and time.
Now, I've heard you talk about biophilic design because we both exist in the same kind of American Marketing Association speaking circles and other places around that you've done speaking, and specifically on the biophilic design part, there are a lot of benefits that business owners and others, regular humans, should know about. Tell me just benefits of biophilic design. Why do we care? Why do we want to bring nature inside?
Oh, gosh. Stephen Keller, who passed away some years ago, he was one of the first theorists to really start talking about biophilia. And one of the things that he said that I think is so important and poignant is that we know that not only is nature good for us, but that we actually need it. Mm-hmm. We're sort of biologically hardwired to need nature. We love having green things in view. We love seeing them grow. And the benefits they're numerous. It restores attention. So just looking up and out, if you're, task oriented and you look up and away from the computer screen and out, say, to a window that has a beautiful tree lined view, or you look up and you see a pillow moss frame, within about 40 seconds, your attention is going to be restored. Your brain is going to just kind of take a relax and allow you to focus once again on the task at hand. So in that attention restoration piece, it's also improving productivity. But there are other benefits of moss specifically. Moss happens to be a noise dampening material. So it's an acoustic material.
Ooh, yeah, right.
It cleans the air of volatile organic compounds, particularly the reindeer moss we use. If you look at it, it's so porous. Mm-hmm. It's cleaning the air of volatile organic compounds. So there are numerous benefits, but for the average person, and when I think about your listeners, it brings greenery, and we like to think joy into a space. And without, sort of outlining the things that make for a bad space, we do know that poor building design actually accounts for about 10% of absences.
Of sick days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you're not able to keep, so it reduces the number of sick days. I think that's between $2,000 and $4,000 per year in savings for not, for recapturing sick days from employees that didn't take them.
Exactly right. So when you think, we've all had that moment where whether it's a meeting, you wake up in the morning and you think to yourself, oh, I don't want to go to that place.
Yes.
We don't want that place to be the office, where you go every day. We want that place to be the place where you think, oh, okay. I'm going to go to work, and there I'm going to see my teammates and my coworkers and my colleagues and, possibly some friends. But I'm also going to see some greenery. I'm going to have a better experience than I would. The isolation we all experienced during the pandemic was not insignificant.
Right.
I know my ideation suffered for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, the idea behind it is that you want to create a space that people look forward to going to.
I caught a stat from, I think it was just honestly from one of your blogs that you did. That was 33% of workers say the office environment itself influences whether or not someone wants to work there.
Yeah.
And that if your environment has plants and is bright and lively, you get that is preferred by 2/3 of respondents.
Yep.
So you walk in for an interview, and if the place looks like, and here I'm just saying,
Yeah.
EAG has moss walls in places, you should want to be here, and I think people do. So,
Well, and I love yours are positioned so that, when someone, the minute they walk in the door, that greenery greets them. And I love everything about this office. I love everything about this building. It's staggered rooms. It's just, there's so much color and it's vibrant. I look forward to coming here. So
well, I know later I may ask a question about a favorite project or something like that, but I don't want it to be this one. I want you should.
I'll try to be impartial.
Strive for something else.
I'll try.
Right.
But yeah, people, you want them to look forward to going to a place. And I think with regard to whether it's recruiting or retention, I know my takeaway from people who have plants or have greenery or just have taken the care to create an environment that is productive and happy and conducive to both task-oriented work as well as collaboration. When you don't see visual cues that tell you that that's in place, to me, that says that this might be a place that doesn't care about me either.
Yeah.
And that's now, granted, I'll acknowledge my own bias, that might be my bias, but I'm thinking if you don't care about the place you're working, then how do you care about the people that work there? Those two things tend to go together for me.
Fair. When you're doing projects like this, tell me kind of the scope of the different kind of projects, because I know you do not just the walls, but you can do your logo in moss. That's a very customized kind of piece, but you also do frames and stuff. Tell me what does the product line look like?
Well,
what is possible in
anything moss, anything, just about any. Truly, it's one is hard pressed to think of what you couldn't do. One of my favorites truly is a project that we did for VML YNR. VML YNR. They wanted a heart, and that heart was, oh my stars, it's 5 feet wide and 3 feet long, and it's comprised of metal. It was a wonderful, fun project to work on. But it's a giant heart with Kansas City right there in the center.
Oh, wow.
And so that was what VML wanted to do as that VML YNR change was taking place, and they were bringing in visitors from across the globe. They, which I love, wanted to show their Kansas City pride. They wanted for people to associate, especially those who might not be familiar with that abbreviation, KC. So that was something they did, as they flew everybody in from all over the world to have them meet here in Kansas City. Custom projects like that, all the way to large full walls. We had the wonderful opportunity to create a full wall that goes around a corner.
Oh man!
Out at Sporting KC.
Oh, I think I saw the Sporting KC one on Instagram. Same with there was one at Fresh Karma Dispensary here in town, where it wasn't just the wall, because I think dispensaries love that for all of the greenness that it's bringing in, but the light. You had there was a hanging light, a drop light, and then a circle of moss and just vibrant green life around the light. That's Is there nothing you can't do, I guess?
Well, then thank you. Those are really fun to create. And actually, it's kind of an interesting story behind that light fixture. The wood that's used for those, that's a collaboration between ourselves and another Kansas City company, HKN Design. And what HKN does is they actually utilize recycled drum drops. Ooh. So when you think about the construction of an orchestral drum, there is, there's with any production, there's always going to be a little bit of waste. And so this wood that's being used to create these drums, when they slice it off the top, you end up with this kind of, this curved wood. And what HKN does is they just go ahead and they take that curvature a little bit further, and they've created these beautiful wood, circular frames that one afternoon we got to thinking, hey, Hey, turn it over, see what can happen. But there's probably no place we haven't tried to stick moths to see what would happen. Up to and including outside. Just so we know, what it does. And it's a rootless plant, so it's a very interesting organism in and of itself. But an LED strip, and we worked with, that was a HKN Design, Deluxe Lighting and Electric, and ourselves. And those fixtures are also, they may be seen at Tower Tavern. Tower Tavern's got those for our Tower Tavern fans. That's in their event room and at their location up on 31st Street. And yeah, I gotta admit, I'm partial to those light fixtures. I really like them.
It bears repeating, I think, that, if you're hanging something upside down, it becomes very difficult to water that. And because this doesn't require water, it doesn't have that same upkeep and maintenance thing. Exactly. It is a fascinating product. So we know what the Fat Plant Society is and what you do and the benefits of biophilic design. I want to shift a little bit and talk about promoting the business, because we're talking to business owners here. Because I have also heard you speak, and I know that you talk at length about content marketing. Let's talk a little bit about how you promote the Fat Plant Society, the kinds of things that you do, because you also have that chief marketing officer hat on. So tell me about content or the kind of marketing that you do.
Well, it was interesting. When I first started writing about biophilic design, it was not a commonly used word yet. Most people, I would say 9 out of 10 people, had never heard of it, didn't know what it was. Didn't know anything about it.
Term that's been around since the 70s, and yet nobody qualifies for those keywords.
No, it's true. Thank you. It's true. So the content that I was creating and just explaining what is biophilia, and biophilia means basically, it's a love of life and things that are living. Biophilic is, of life. So it was very, frankly, I don't want to say easy, but it was kind of a no-brainer to just explain that terminology, just kind of start with the basics. And so those posts, there's a couple of posts that I consider foundational for the content. And I try to be diligent about updating them annually. The first one is moss walls versus living plant walls. Which one is best for your needs and desires?
Oh God, yes. Yes, please.
And isn't it surprising that the SEO world would even take that that title is long. But it also speaks to how we feel about plant, and I really mean it. The title is not only for SEO purposes, it also reflects how we feel.
Right.
We adore living plant walls. We think they're absolutely wonderful. But we want to spell out for people which one is best for your needs and desires. What are you trying to achieve, and which one of these is going to work best for you?
Yeah.
And so and then the other article that I would think of as a foundational article is the article that explains those terms: biophilic design, biophilia, biomimicry. What are these terms and what do they mean, and why do they matter?
Oh, yeah.
And what's been wonderful is since 2016, the interest in these topics has grown exponentially. It was surprising.
More research is done. We find out more about why biophilia matters, especially in a working environment. And so people start looking for it more. Your content is there ready to go. That's a delightful way to go. And one of the things I like about the kind of content you put out is that you're educating, right? You're talking about the benefits of the whole program. You're not super hardcore sale. Hey, have you ever thought about having a logo and you're, made out of plants? And it's not that. You're teaching, you're educating, and yet all of the content sells. Like it makes the point for you. You're doing those things.
Thank you. Well, that's just, you want to write, what you know, first of all, and you want to write who you are. It's, William Birnbach, DDB Worldwide.
Doyle Dane Birnbach.
Exactly. That guy, he's done a few things in his life. He's got a few notches on his belt. He said that actually, he felt that good communicators have a particular insight into human nature, and that it is that insight into human nature and sort of understanding how people want to be spoken to and spoken with and spoken about. If you've got that insight, and that's a really vital skill to develop, because then it will improve all of your communication. So, you want to write, you want to patronize, you want to educate, but not patronize.
Yes, right. And you're putting out content that you're sharing in different places and everything. But the other thing that I like about what I just heard was that you have this foundational content. You know that's foundational content for your website, and you don't have to rewrite new content all the time. You update the current content. You can just improve the thing that's there, update it with new information, make it longer, make it more of a real solid piece on the website. And that's doing the work for you. You don't have to come up with 10 new ways that you've never phrased it exactly this way before to say the same thing. So
yeah, exactly.
Great job.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it was the other thing that I think has been beneficial was, and there's a big debate, as I'm sure you know, do we keep dates on our articles, or do we strip it of dates? What to do. Many people, when they go to look for articles, they want to see something is fresh.
Yeah.
No.
Is this from 2016? Because the world has changed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, 29. So then there's the pre-pandemic, post-pandemic world. So oh wow, 2019 is it? So that was what sort of pushed me toward updating those articles, because I knew the content was still relevant. I did genuinely refresh the content, and I would do fresh research, and I would, because I wanted the links, and I'm always very careful to cite and link and, give everyone the credit that they well deserve. But I want my links that I'm utilizing to be relevant and fresher as well. And so again, when we think and look at our environments, our physical environments, pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic, I think many of us really truly conceive of our environments very differently than we used to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
you share this content out. I know I follow and see things on Instagram and on LinkedIn. You're in the social media channels you would expect. Does one of them play first place and then second place, or how do you favor one versus the other?
Yeah, and there used to be a time where I would try to make sure that I hit everything. That I was covering every single base, from here to the, end of the road. And what I have found in recent years is that I might be better off focusing on 2 to 3 and doing a really good job with those, or doing the best job I can do with those. And that might mean that others sort of drop by the wayside. The metaverse. Meta. So Instagram is my number one.
Primary. Yeah. Primary. Highly visual. When somebody sees the Sporting KC wall, for example, that does everything you need it to do.
And the whole platform, was designed to be visually focused. That's what it's for. That's what it does. And then when Meta decided to marry, and I do thank them for this, when they married your sharing, and it enabled me to be able to share that content to Facebook at the same time.
Easier, for sure.
That was handy. I can tell you it's cut hours from my day, being able to do that simultaneously. And I do. Now, I will say it's important to check. I think it's very, very important to check. You don't just share blindly. If I know that it's sharing to both platforms, but then I'll go into Facebook and make sure that nothing looks wonky and that things are appearing as they should. Of course, there are always glitches, and that's what the delete button is for.
True.
But those, picking a few channels, in our case, it's Instagram, our website itself, and to a degree, LinkedIn, because of course,
it's the business audience who is buying, and you should be there. Yeah,
exactly. And I find that I encounter some content that's relevant to my life, and it's serving me up things so I never open LinkedIn without finding an article that piques my interest.
Yeah.
And gives me something. So even, that 15 minutes trying to glean as much as I can out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take the chief marketing officer hat off for a second, and you can put on the business owner hat. What's the best business advice you've ever gotten?
Oh, that's a good one.
Talking to those other business owners out there, and what do you think?
You're gonna make mistakes. I mean, I know that's not advice. It's just a fact.
Well, it can be good advice though. That's like, just understand just this happens and you can move on.
You're going to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those mistakes are going to be expensive.
Oh yeah.
And that is not fun,
Mm-hmm.
but arguably I believe it was a wonderful person in our lives who shared with us, the more expensive the mistake, the greater the lesson.
True. Very true.
But it sounds like I belong to the cult of DDB, but William Birnbach also said, a principle only counts when it costs you something.
Oh, yeah.
And
They're deep.
I know, it's very deep. And I keep that quote is on my refrigerator.
Ooh.
And it's there for a couple of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that it all goes into that sort of pot of mistake making.
Mm-hmm.
In making mistakes, you kind of figure out where your values lie, and who you are and you aren't. So another piece of advice that is very, very valuable that we received early on was, don't say yes to everything. Because you can't,
yeah.
no one can. And knowing, when not to, but I think those principles. So in our case, we tout ourselves as a sustainable and environmentally conscious / friendly, insert any other number of words here. But, we want to walk the talk. We want to make sure that, so we made a decision a few years ago to not source our moss from overseas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Reduce that carbon
The green. Yeah. Still being the green thing. Yeah.
So our moss is sourced entirely in the United States. That has cost us money sometimes. That has meant at times, sorry, your project, we can't get to your project for at least 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, maybe 12, because luckily, we know enough about where our product comes from that we know that it needs to be there. That one has to allow for regrowth.
Oh yeah.
So you don't want to.
So it's sustainable.
Exactly,
because that's important to the whole thing too.
We don't want to kill off moss. We don't want to over harvest moss, and we don't. And it was easy, although it had a price tag associated with it. It was an easy decision for us to decide not to ship from overseas.
Yeah,
because that's a pretty significant carbon footprint.
Well, and I know that like you use reindeer moss as one of those things, and we don't grow as many reindeer as we can. If you're going to harvest reindeer to create reindeer, no wait, that's probably not may not be how it works. But I'll let you stick.
It's interesting that they call it reindeer moss here in the U.S. because actually a lot of that moss that many of the producers across the world are using actually comes from Norway.
Yeah.
And we in the land of reindeers, or reindeers.
We're gonna have to look that one up.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so let me do this. Let's switch to the lightning round. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Ooh. I'm sitting up in my chair.
Here's what's happening with the lightning round. You don't have any advanced knowledge of anything I might ask, so we gave you broad direction on where our conversation might go before. Right. Now you have no idea, and so everything is for real now. These are shorter answer. You can soundbite it if you want. If we need to dive into something, we certainly will. But let's go into the lightning round. You ready? Here we go. What's the best part of your job? What is it that you look forward to doing?
I love working with the moss itself.
Really?
Yeah.
The product?
Yeah. And I don't get to. I just felt my husband roll his eyes. You can feel that, by the way, after you've been married for so many years. Yeah. You can feel your spouse roll their eyes, even when you're not in the same room.
And I should pause just long enough to say that your husband, Morton Clinta, is the other co-owner. Like you are both in this together. Yes. We didn't do a good job of describing his role in any way when we started this podcast. So sorry about that. Sorry, Morton.
We didn't. So I just felt another eye roll.
Another eye.
Yeah, there it was.
One more.
There it was. Yeah, and Morton Clinton, born and raised in Copenhagen, Denmark. We chose to return from Copenhagen and founded this business together, and it's been wonderful. But I don't get my hands in the moss as often as I would like. Oh. This week, for example, I had an opportunity on Monday when it finally stopped icing.
Oh, yeah.
When it was finally safe to walk on a sidewalk. I had an opportunity to go down to the workshop and finish off of an installation that we did this week, and it makes me happy that the tactile aspect of it. I love it.
Next question. Your Mosswall installations and logo and branding stuff has been in some of the coolest places in town. We may have touched on a favorite at some point. If we had to officially say this is my favorite project, I would stare at this every day. If I had a new business prospect walk in, I would immediately send them this picture. You should do something cool.
Yeah. Real talk. I struggle to not overpost EAG photos. No, because again, I love this workplace. There's just so much going on here visually. Again, the staggered work areas, the bookshelves, the ladder that complements the
library feel.
The library feel, just all of it. And then, the frame that you've got in the back of the building as well. Yeah. I like everything about it. Another one of my favorites is River Market Dental.
Oh, really? Okay.
And that is, actually, we worked with a local interior designer, Josue Montes, One Dapper Latino is where you can find him on Instagram. And he created what I call a moss alley. Ooh. So River Market Dental, of course, in the River Market, it's a historic building like this one. And I love these historic buildings. They just seem to have some just
character.
Yeah.
Real character.
Yeah. Things happened here. Many things have happened here over time. And so they've got a lot of dark wood paneling, and he created this one, it's a moss alley, and it's just a row of, pillow moss frames, one down the other. And I like that project also because I am petrified of the dentist.
Oh, it calms you right down when you're walking back there to get the scraping done. Oh,
we like to think so. And then you stop thinking about, oh, what are they going to do to me? And you get fixated on that instead. And you can see it from some of the dental chairs. It just I like the way that one turned out.
Everything you just said, and I think this is very much the whole back in touch with nature and that kind of thing. Everything you just said about that process is screaming Temple Grandin to me, and that she created the cattle chute where they don't know what's going on until the very last minute when it's about to be a bad day. Everything screams that. You've recreated biophilic design and Temple Grandin cattle slaughter into the dentist's office. Well done, Kasey.
Right?
Well done.
Right? Everything just goes more smoothly when we're not panicking.
Perfect.
When we're not frightened and panicking.
Next question. You are an entrepreneur. What part of your business do you wish you knew more about?
Pricing.
Interesting.
Pricing, hands down.
Easiest thing to change, toughest thing to get right.
Exactly. It's complicated. It's very, very complicated. On the one hand, you've got to earn money. On the other hand, you want to make sure that the product remains accessible, and then where that overlap between branding and pricing, that's talk about a deep and complicated topic.
Yeah. The case studies of brands that put out a product and they charged too little for it. Nobody wanted to buy it. And as soon as they raised the price, it flew off the shelf because it can't possibly be this cheap and be good.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And the flip side are products that people may be willing to pay far more for by virtue of the fact that it's considered a luxury item. And so, we try to find that middle ground between the two. Where because we feel that biophilic design is so important and biophilia really does make a difference in people's lives, we don't ever want to price ourselves out of the market or become this, super exclusive thing. That doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So it's writing that line.
Pricing. Good answer. I'm going to ask you a question about a takeaway from being a professor, because we first met at Avila University, where you were part of the full-time faculty. I was somewhere between working in the marketing department and teaching as an adjunct in the MBA program. But you've also taught English language and business in Copenhagen. What do you take away from all of that time as a professor?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a really good question.
See, that's why we do the lightning. It's for this kind of thing.
Gosh, it's not answering the question. See, because my first response is the thing that I miss most about teaching.
Oh, yeah, no.
In general is how much it energizes me.
Oh, I hear exactly what you're saying. You're on your toes. You're listening to somebody. You are reacting to whether they get it or not, and you're dialed in. Absolutely.
And you're watching all those nonverbals. And it's I used to tease my fundamentals of communications course. I'd be like, hey, everybody, when we do the unit on nonverbal communication, like, by the way, just because I'm standing up and you're sitting down doesn't mean I can't see you roll your eyes. See how that works?
Yeah.
But it's all of that real time. And then the best part of teaching is the questions that you get, the questions.
Yeah.
You want people to be engaged, and then B, being surprised by a question, and then further being able to say, you know what? I don't know. Let's find out. And then that was, and I think about being in the classroom today and how technology lends itself so well to being able to do that.
Yeah.
When we would, to be able to go through the, hey, you know what? I don't know. And how could anybody know everything anymore?
Exactly. Yeah.
But let's find out together. And then that gives one an opportunity with the student of, and this is at any age and any discipline, to really focus on media literacy.
Yeah.
So if we're going to find out, let's learn from each other about how we suss out the information that the Google machine is feeding us.
Right.
How do we sort through that?
And when you have a class that is actually engaged and they it can immediately Google something and call you out on, you got the brand right. You said Motorola, but it's actually Nokia. Whatever that is, like they can do that, and you have that live discussion where everything is, oh man.
Yeah. Then they hold up their phone to you, see, and they point at it and go, see how wrong you are.
That's right. They love that. They love that. This is our last question. We're done with the lightning round. I'll get you out of the lightning round, and we'll say, where can people find you if they want to know more information? If they want their own everything wall, if they need to develop a green cattle chute before the dental practice scares you to death, what happens?
The Fat Plant Society. The name was chosen because we just by virtue of appreciating green things, you're a member. So thefatplantsociety.com, at the Fat Plant Society on Instagram and Facebook, and at the Fat Plant Society on LinkedIn. But you can also find me personally. I will admit that I utilize my personal LinkedIn more than the company. So if you wanted to interact with me, please feel free to find me, Kasey L. Riley, on LinkedIn, and you'll see the company name there as well.
Well, Kasey L. Riley at LinkedIn, co-founder and CMO of the Fat Plant Society. Thanks for being with us on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. I had fun.
And that is our show. Thanks to Kasey Riley from the Fat Plant Society for being with us today. And thank you for listening to the Small Business Miracles podcast. Remember to subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating and review, drop us a line on the website at eagadv.com if you have any thoughts. Until then, we're going to be out here helping entrepreneurs with another Small Business Miracle.